Lee.
Apologies from Councillor Bond. Indeed, he's got a bad cold and doesn't want to infect anybody with it. So.
And any declaration of interest on matters on this evening's agenda? No?
No.
Thank you very much. Okay, minutes of previous meetings, Town Council meeting of the 9th of December for approval. We've been circulated it already. Could I have a proposer, please? We need to rush.
I'm happy to propose.
Thank you. Seconded, please. Councillor Too Good. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Planning Committee for Information and the Library Steering Group for information. Okay. Financial report.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, the balance of the Town Council's funds at the 31st of December, the reporting date for this meeting, it stood at 198,652. The accounts have been reconciled to that date. Payments during December, a total of 32,841, of which 5,995 was due to Salford Gardens, and the full list is attached as usual for members' information and comment if appropriate. Receipts during the month total 6,371, of which 4,462 was the total of Salford Gardens rent for the month. And the list of payments and receipts against the budget for the first 9 months of the year is attached as usual. It shows that payments were £1,040 over budget and receipts 625 under budget. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's the report for this month.
Thank you, Clara. Members, questions on the financial report? No. Can I have a proposer? Councillor Mack, seconded, please. Sorry, James. Yeah. All those in favour. I couldn't quite see behind Steve there. Sorry, Steve, I wasn't being rude, but it's got the arm coming up. And Clark, back to you for the financial risk assessment.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, most members will be aware that this is an annual event. We have a statutory duty to review the risk, the management of financial risk and the arrangements thereby. And as before, we are still working on the basis of the one prepared by previous auditors, previous external auditors that is, and we have that circulated to have a look at. That's the framework the staff team work to. The internal auditor is content with that framework, and so we are asked to have reviewed it, propose any amendments you may think desirable, and when you're ready, agree it.
Thank you very much. Again, members, any questions or any comments on the?
No, I had a meeting before after in the whole building. There's very little. There's only small jobs that be done.
Hang on, Jim. You're getting ahead of us.
Sorry, I think
not the fire risk. Perhaps with my Scottish enunciation, for which I apologise.
I might suggest that it means the same thing to Councillor too.
I'm ahead of myself.
You are very much ahead of yourself. Okay, finance, James.
Go back.
Any questions or comments on the financial risk?
No?
So can we have a proposal? Councillor Logan, seconder. Councillor Milford, all those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Okay, now to number 6, the number 31 bus. This is something that both the Assets and Services Working Group and the Community Development Working Group has been exercising about for quite some time now. And the way the service is run, the amount of funding that the council is putting into it, and after quite a lot of deliberation, we were at the stage whether we were wondering whether to recommend to the council that we discontinue the service completely because of the way that it's well, the combination of factors there, and members will probably be able to speak for themselves how they see that coming forward. And there's also a further recommendation from Councillor Cockett, which she'll speak to in a moment, about reducing the service to a couple of days per week. But that's really the background to the fact. It's in an ideal world, speaking for myself, I think it's something that we would control completely as a council. In other words, we'd have the vehicle, we'd own the vehicle, and we'd employ the driver, and we'd run the service properly. But in that ideal world, we're not there at the moment. So I will hopefully down the line is something that a future council might be able to address. So before I open the discussion up to members, I'll ask Councillor Cockett to put meat on the bones of this suggestion.
Okay, so speaking to this, I would like to start off by saying I'm very disappointed that with the modifications we made to the service, making it demand responsive, and also having leafleted the whole of St Lawrence, I'm very disappointed the passenger numbers didn't tick up. And whilst I support the bus very much so, it fulfills a social function, an environmental function. Theoretically, it could fulfil an economic function by bringing people into the town to shop. I cannot stand and defend the losses as they are, which is very unfortunate. So I had concurred with the Assets and Services Group with the conclusion that we should terminate the service. However, probably around about 3 o'clock in the morning, one day, being kept up by my baby probably, I thought of the cash flow situation in reverse. And so when I say reverse, I mean looking at the amount of revenue and how much bus that can buy us, as opposed to buying a whole week's worth of bus and seeing how much revenue it brings in. So my proposal is that we would cut the service from 5 days of operation down to 2. Theoretically, looking at the numbers here, that could break even. Now, the obvious problem there, you would say, is, well, 60% less service would equate to 60% less passengers. However, what I contend is that a large number of the passengers are not travelling on the bus on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday because they have to, but they are getting out of the house a couple of times a week. And what I think is that by moving the days of the week that it's available, the behaviour will shift, and people will start to use it on a Tuesday and a Thursday, or a Monday and a Friday, whichever day it is that we can leave in operation. Going on the latest figures, these are all approximate here, of course. My summary is approximate. If we reduce the cost down to 40%, then that would, in agreement, of course, this is all depending if the operator agrees, that would reduce the cost to the council to £8,074 a year. The theoretical, well, and the income we have from this last year is £9,046. The possible income is £9,046. So theoretically, we could go into the black with it if 100% of the journeys moved on to the 2 days. Now, that's not going to happen. You're not going to get 100% of a shift over. I'm not even going to suggest that. If no journeys moved over at all, then the cost to the council at the end would be £4,656. My hope is that we would finish somewhere halfway between being in the black and being out of pocket by £4,656 by retaining the 2 days. Have I explained that? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's my contention. That's my suggestion, and I'll leave it to the other councillors to make their inputs.
Okay. Thank you very much, Stephen. Members? Con?
So you can publicly subsidise mobility without using buses. You could hand out vouchers for taxis. You could encourage someone to start an Uber type service or something like that. So there are other ways of giving public subsidy to people to move about.
There are.
Yeah.
There's no question about that, and that would be really valuable work. To have that work done would be very, very valuable. Just a little bit of background here. We do need to give, according to the Transport Commissioner, we do need to give 10 weeks notice, and we also need to have this quite well wrapped up for the budget in February. But yeah, no, I don't doubt it. There are other ways that you can move people around towns.
Yeah.
And that work would be valuable. It would be good to get that work done.
So working with our local taxi providers, identify the cohort that we want to subsidise. I've got no problem with subsidising people that can't move about because of lack of public transport. The bus is a blunt instrument. There are other ways of doing it.
Jason?
Well, exactly that, and I will follow on what Councillor Watling has said. I brought this 31 bus into coalition when the white bus went. We were looking about 45, 50 people a week using the service at the time. We're 5 years on, we probably can look at 5 or 6 people a week using it. It is probably something that is not that the town council does. It should be moved on to a private sector situation. I will couple what Councillor Watling has said. Yeah, there is a situation here, and I think we have had conversations with the taxi companies in town that they could cover this without too much cost to the participants who are taking it, and that would therefore reduce our risk to doing so. I don't like saying it, but it just hasn't. We've done as far as we can with it. I think so.
Con, can I just take back to the thing about the Uber thing? The first thing is your idea here, your suggestion that if you lived in one of the outlying districts, St Lawrence, Bunchurch, or wherever, that they could call a taxi and that the town council would effectively have an account with the taxi service.
That, I wouldn't go quite that far, but I would say perhaps, we identify a cohort. We say you buy. I'm thinking of that now, but you put in 100 quid. We'll match that with 100 quid of taxpayers' money. You've got a £200 taxi voucher that gets you in and out of town as and when you need it.
I see.
Or something like that. I mean, there are loads
of
that
needs work, doesn't it?
It needs work. It needs thinking about. I don't think Boris Spikes are the answer. Especially
our problem today, though, is that we have to have this in advance of the budget, which has got to be at February's meeting. So, sorry. Did you want to say something before?
Well, I understand what a difficult situation this is, and I do know 2 people who think it's wonderful, 31 buses, but there are only 2 of them. I think the voucher idea is very good. I mean, we could try doing Stevens 2 days a week, perhaps for maybe a small extension, and see if it could work. I mean, I know that money doesn't go
to something else.
No.
Yeah. Brian, and then you, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much in favour of putting £4 in the budget. I'm working on that basis. My concern about supporting taxis, it might be abused. At the moment, people take the bus, generally are people who don't have any other mobility at all, and are generally poorer. And I wouldn't want people who could easily afford a taxi taking a subsidised one just because it was available. So means testing is impossible, really, but that's the danger, I think, of having a subsidised taxi system. But it's certainly got to put some money into the budget for your system, and hopefully it would generate. I think people would think if they're frightened that they're going to lose it at all, it's one of these things where there's a 31 bus. I never use it, but it's nice to know it's there. And if they knew that they were going to lose it or have it reduced, I think it might stimulate more use.
Councillor Logan.
Yeah, I would pretty much along the same lines. I mean, I think what you're saying about the taxi thing all depends on identifying the cohort, and that cohort not seeing it as a freebie. Because that is very much in danger. Once the word slides out that you with a little bit of nous that you can find yourself subsidised taxi rides about the place, then that is this. I mean, my thoughts in listening to Councillor Pocket is that we should at least give the 2-day a week thing. So, at least a try.
Right.
No, I'm just going to come back where I said on that. I mean, we started this out because there was a need, and there was a evidently written need for people to do so. That hasn't continued over the 4 years. I don't like taking away public transport. I really don't. And I'm not suggesting that town council subsidises taxis either. What I think is the taxis, the private sector, could take over this quite easily, could quite easily coordinate how this happens to the people that we have still that operates the bus service. And this bus service does not any longer do what it used to do.
Sorry, David.
My thoughts are, why would the private sector want to get involved with something that's not making money?
Well, aren't we in a town that looks at what the private sector could do for us? And we never have, to be fair, okay, beyond the BBA. So, isn't that an opportunity for them? And I know we've had conversations with them that they could operate this service without us.
But would they?
What is stopping? The only thing that's stopping that there is the subsidy that we have to. We work on the subsidy for this bus service. So therefore, the only thing that stops us operating it profitably is that. So if the people that need, and we're only talking about a need-em issue, if the people that need to do that bung together and come in to town, then why do we need to run a £14,000 a year bus service?
Well, it's 4,000 at the moment, but I can see the point.
No, it's not
For the 4,000 would be for the.
but as I say, we brought this in 6 years ago. This has cost us that amount, average of money, over a town.
Okay, we have Councillor Macaulay and then Councillor Shipper.
Yeah, just a question, it's probably to Councillor Crockett, who knows most of this. Well, this, if the decision is to cancel the service, will it come as a surprise to the users?
I can't answer. I would probably say no. It probably won't come as a surprise. It'll come as a quite a significant loss to some of them. Some of them are very low mobility. But no, I mean, I think the writing's on the wall really, because the bus is going around, pretty fairly empty most of the time. I think the actual number of trips per day is around about 25. Okay, so yeah, so sometimes people are getting on, they have some company, and sometimes not. But the great hope is that by condensing it onto 2 days, then the bus will be that much busier as it's going around. As for the people that are there, especially those with low mobility, if we decide to cancel a service, then they need to be informed ASAP. And there are some schemes available. Age UK runs some schemes, Optimo as well are
If
available.
we cancel it, it won't stop for 10 weeks, is that right?
That's correct. I understand it'll be April the 1st.
Yeah. Traffic Commissioner is 56 days. Yeah.
Yeah, due notice would have to be given.
If we're looking for an alternative solution, ideally, it would be in place within that period.
Yes. And the ideal alternative solution is the voluntary sector come and take it from the bottom up, but that work needs to be done.
Okay, Councillor Chigwood.
Well, what are we talking about? I personally think we should scrap it. I don't know what you're talking about, making a loss, losing taxpayers' money. I think we should go. Really, we played around with this for a good 2 years, haven't we? Hasn't been very successful. The driver is very uncooperative, as Stephen's found out. The taxi's a mess, isn't it? Never looks very nice. So my personal opinion is get rid of it. once and for all.
Okay, Councillor Milford.
I was going to back a sort of extension of a trial period on a reduced capacity, say 2 days a week, just to see how it goes, and then use that time to see what the other alternatives are.
Might I recommend a 6 months extension as it stands?
Well, yes, you can.
Your recommendation is as your recommendation.
No, this isn't my recommendation.
Well, it's not on the agenda, it's an amendment to the original, which is to scrap it completely.
How does that
So
time
we
with a
can-
notice period that you've got to give then? You can give a notice for 6 months, can you?
Okay, well that
Termination.
No, Steve.
Sorry.
How does your 6 months tie in with the notice period that you've got to give to the Transport Commission?
Oh, well, it's two different things. I mean, you have a 10-week notice period for the Transport Commissioner. But the suggestion would be, if we are going to continue it forward, rather than continue it forward for a full 12 months, as it stands, or at a reduced rate, according to an amended recommendation, I would suggest a 6 month extension at a reduced level.
And then give notice if we decide otherwise.
Yes, and then 10 weeks before that 6 months is up.
Yeah, okay, Jason.
and that's the Transport Commissioner. But of course, who we have operating it is our operator, and this has been the problem with this service for a long time, is we do not have any other operator that is willing to do it. We have found one that would do it, and I've got to hold my hands up here for the time that we instigated this. I don't think it's been right for a long time, because we are held captive by that. So therefore, if that happens, the operator might run away anyway.
It's absolutely correct. All of this is on the proviso that the operator would be interested in taking on for 2 days a week, which they might not be.
So that's where we need to understand whether that's right.
And if
we need to know all things, that's what we need to know.
So bringing it together then, the amendment as it stands is that you would like the service to be continued on a 2 day per week basis for a period of 6 months. And during that time, we explore other ways of offering a similar service, or exploring whether there are other parties out there in the private sector willing to cooperate with the town council in providing this service.
That's correct. And also, of course, monitor on a monthly basis the number of riders.
So to be clear, if we put this to the vote and the vote is in your favour, the service would run for 6 months, and then depending on the success or otherwise of the service, there would be a 10-week period during which we would give notice to the Transport Commissioner that it was going to cease.
That wasn't what
No, it's
we
not.
suggested.
No,
We were suggesting the 10 weeks within the 6
within the
months.
6
That's
months.
correct.
Yeah, well, we have to be clear about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we need to be able
And we
to
also
use
need to be clear when the 6 months begins.
We do.
Yeah.
And that will be from April the 1st.
Well,
I
my
believe.
personal way forward would be for a 3-month period with a review after that. But that's the members dealing.
Well, the two ladies that I know that love that bus and use it are both using it for medical reasons. And maybe we could find a partnership. I mean, the major problem is, as you very well know, people getting from Ventnor to St Mary's and back from St Mary's out to Upper Ventnor or St Lawrence or Bonchurch. Because if you come back in the afternoon on the main bus, you're stuck. You get to Ventnor, you're old, you can't walk around, you're going to have to get a taxi, aren't you?
Yes, but this
Oh, but
one's only runs in the morning.
Yeah, but that's the kind of.
But maybe we could look for an NHS partner.
Well, no, but that already exists at St Mary's, and it's a very good service actually,
Yeah.
because I used it with Margaret with
If
her.
they need it.
If they need it, then there is a voluntary ambulance service, and they use local taxis.
Well, in that case, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no,
so really,
and that's very successful. Doing
that should be publicised, shouldn't it?
Well, it's not our service. It's a trust service. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know how well publicised it is as far as people who have to get to St Mary's in the meantime are concerned. I really don't know. But I know the service definitely exists, and if there is a need, then these people will definitely get to the hospital and they will be brought back home.
So the people who lost the 31 service, you could say to them,
If they were going to, and this is purely
yeah,
for the health service, yeah.
yeah.
It won't take them to the local doctor's surgery, although it might. I don't know, but it'll definitely take them to St Mary's, and even to the hospice. It takes them to the hospice as well. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, I know they probably feel. I'm sure neither of these two ladies know about this. They just.
That's a lot. Did you want to come back?
No, it's just discussing.
All right. So shall we go to, do you want to wrap it up and we'll go
Regarding the dates, I mean, you mentioned a 3-month extension. I mean, if we went for the 6 months, then when you reduce the 10 weeks out of that.
that was, I understand. Okay, so as it stands.
So 6 months from April.
Right.
Yeah.
So the proposal is, members, that we extend the service for further 6 months, but on a 2-day-a-week basis, and make provisions in the budget for that at the February meeting. Proposed by Councillor Crockett, seconded by Councillor Logan. All those in favour, please. Any against? 2 against. Yeah, so that's carried. Thank you.
I'm just voting for more public service thing.
Yeah.
What happened there?
Hey, things,
Don't worry.
things happen.
Colin, I haven't given me tablets. Okay, the new public toilet in the central car park. So, yeah, just let me get my little plan, because I was quite excited when I saw the drawing. That's not too good, and it's not about fire.
I'm a bit deaf actually. Cold, yeah. But we've pretty much sorted the outside out, but the inside we haven't got 100% yet. We still need to play around with that a bit. And you'll notice we put the disabled door on the side this time. Because you feel that if you get someone disabled and they're taking a long time to get in the door to keep them happy, we have a clear run to the other people.
Oh, I have.
So with a door on the side there, they're not going to be in hassle for anyone else in the way they can hurry. And you see we've got the store on here, which is quite large, mainly because we wanted to balance the brick up in the front. We wanted to get it all looking good on the front there. So the store is a bit large. We got the disabled with a changing bed. Then we've got an ordinary toilet, whatever you can use it for. And then you've got another toilet with another changing bed and urinal in. So all 3 toilets, different sizes. But if one wishes, we can play around with a little bit of that. But if we play around with too much, we're going to alter the brickwork outside, which if we're not careful, is going to become balanced. Which does give us a problem architecturally wise.
Yeah.
So the inside we just need to play around with a bit. But the outside, I think we're there. Personally, we got a problem that we're driving at against, well, by a metre against that car park wall. But we're going to have to put a fence and a gate both sides, so we get lovely children playing in it, and possibly extend the fence on the top, so they don't try to jump in that way. Got a bit of security problem here, but we can overcome it by a bit of playing around.
I think the design's much improved since the beginnings, Jim. Yeah,
It's got some character to it, isn't it?
Yeah, the thing that concerns me, and I don't know about other members, is the fact that there has been this problem on Marlborough Road about the drug abuse and needles and sharps and everything being left there. Is it possible to have CCTV or something up there?
You definitely put CCTV, yeah, definitely. No question about it. You can hide it nicely there too.
Yeah.
Where you've got this overhang on to keep it dry. But I have also, more of it looking, I went to Shanklin today, and that's what I got at Shanklin. I got a disposable sharp container. But Shanklin's they're pretty well off in Shanklin because they've got a massive building behind it. So all they're emptying and plumbing, what have you, is in another building. So we need to look at a disposable sharp needles, lockable, so we don't know. But Morgan is doing some investigation on that. We don't want to encourage the junkies in there, but at the same time, they have got someone to dispose of, haven't they, if they need to be. I don't know if you have a view on that.
No, because they're used. They use shops. That's where they go.
Yeah.
Are we really worried about what happened to Marlborough Is that not just a case of what happened?
Well,
They just left it behind.
obviously it's pretty closed off up there, and the central car park is pretty open, so there is that, and also you can see down on top of it from the open space above. But it's just something I just wanted the members to have a view on, as something that really needs to be monitored. I suppose what we could do is when the toilets are up and running, excuse me, you two, I suppose what we could do while the toilets are up and running is monitor the situation. If it does become a problem, then obviously we're in a position to do something about it. But there's things to the expense of doing it, and the monitoring and everything else has got to be explored. Tom.
That's quite a big roof void you got in there, Jim. What's all that about?
Well, you've got to have a roof on it, you want to do a decent pitch on it, otherwise it's awful, and you've got to balance the picture with the height of the building.
Yep.
You know, there's nothing you can do there. We've got some ventilation on it, but there's nothing you can do. A roof forge, isn't it, really?
Okay. We could rack it out with solar on the front.
So only problem because of my businesses, because all you're going to have running there is the wash basins and what have you, the lights. But I mean, your children will use it for a brick set.
No, I love you, children.
You've got to try and make this vandal proof as much as you can, but I can see him playing them. But if the committee wants something, you can certainly look at it.
Well, new solar panels are practically indestructible in any case. I mean, I could jump on them and I'm
No.
I think,
just for the record.
Certainly, you know, this is what I'm here for. Any suggestions, very welcome.
and I think, I mean, if we're a reasonably green council and we're putting up a public roof that's facing pretty much south, it behooves us to cover it.
Of course we should.
Yeah. Let's see. Councillor Macaulay.
I like it. I think it's fantastic. I just wonder, is it in the right place?
Yeah, I thought it was coming down.
Yeah,
sorry,
Jim can explain that.
You've got a problem where it is, because quite frankly, it's right, and you've got to be careful saying that, it's right opposite the zebra crossing. And you get the elderly gentlemen to get to tidy us up before I go out. And I don't think it's the right place to have it. You've got somebody coming across the zebra crossing, the first thing you face is the toilet. This one at the back is everywhere.
Town.
You all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so you can get through it nicely there, through it open again. So I just, that's my plan, really.
I think it's a good idea because the top space is very difficult to get into with a car.
It is actually.
So if that's where the disabled people go in, it's using that more productively.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, what about the service connections to that new position?
That's fine.
Are they okay? Are they?
Yeah, I am just clarifying that with my meeting there is Wednesday this week, just to get some prices off them to do the road connection. But as far as I know, as far as I've been sure, you're okay.
Is there a sewer going down
The sewer's over.
Brimshill Road?
No, we pick the sewer up actually, just outside the Tesco's. The sewer's outside. You just got to check the depth of it. But the depth is really not a problem because the car park runs out there.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's where we were going to go in, we want to go into there.
Yeah, good.
So I'm meeting there to do that sewage work this Wednesday.
Yeah.
10 o'clock, I think it is.
Okay. Jason.
Am I only alone that the whole basis of this, having this new toilet is part of the new town improvements, that we don't have this up at the end of anywhere else and no one thinks about it and we've done something but we haven't, that should come back to where we thought it should be at the first place, because that's exactly why it was. It should go into the services, and now we're putting it up in the end. And yes, it can get still into services. So our argument for months was no, it has to be there. Now we're saying no, we'll tuck it away.
I think, with great respect, we haven't come up with drawing court, haven't done the investigation.
No, it's not about the drawings, it was about the conversation. It was about we have to be seen that we are doing this in the middle of town, and now we're putting it away.
Everyone's got their own opinion, with great expectation, but
okay, but why are we doing it up there?
I just think, like I said earlier, I just think it's a more comfortable position to be in.
I don't think you can see a building of that size would be hidden away.
Yeah, it's not hidden.
I mean, but it's a committee decision, certainly not mine or Andrew.
No, but it's Jim, it's that It's like a pagoda, for goodness sakes. It's like everyone knows where it is. That doesn't matter. So if the pagoda covers the inside, why does that matter where it is?
Well, it matters when, with great respect, it matters when someone comes out the door, doesn't it? Tie yourself up, well.
Yeah, well, we've all done that.
Not when someone wants to cross the children.
Okay, on record I am.
These car parking spaces, there's not going to be any sort of conflict with cars swinging in and out in front.
No, there's some posts there.
Yeah,
There's a
going to post it off, are they?
They're going to post it off.
Needs
We
to be
did.
6 metres and then.
Sorry, yeah, we've got a post right through there. We've got some decorative posts, 2 decorative posts on the roof, and then you've got these plenty posted up.
And as a driver, just thought of one other, excuse me, Jamie, just a minute.
We don't talk about
Is that if the toilet was to be where the original was going to be, it's a blind spot. You're actually driving into the car park, you can't see left of you because of the size of the building, whereas you can at the moment. And also, where it is, absolutely right, as a driver again, it's practically impossible, well, certainly for a car of my size, and that's my choice for that big car, and you would do the same job, I suppose, but it's practically impossible to park in that corner in any case.
I can't park my car in there.
But that takes it away from being, excuse me, with your thing, Chair. That takes it away from being useful to the town. It is. I'm sorry. We have problems about where our current disabled toilet is. Now we're putting this up, right up the end, exactly where people said we would do it, and we said no, we wouldn't do that.
Is it a visibility or an access thing you're worried about, Jason?
Access.
Well, I'm saying I have to follow that because I think where it is, the new place is right next to the pedestrian area. So for people who are disabled, it's easier for them.
Okay.
Sorry, Pete.
It strikes me that the ideal corner is actually the bottom left-hand corner of the car park. But please, if you can remind me, Jim, there's a problem with the services there, isn't
and
there?
also you've got BT, got a lot of equipment there too, haven't they?
Okay.
Yeah, BT are always working out there.
Okay. So we're really between one of two positions then, yeah?
Oh, ideally, yes, yeah.
So I'm just trying to visualise that.
Oh,
Okay.
going to dance.
No.
Oh, I'd just like to
That's nice if you like.
Councillor Milford.
I do like the design.
I say, certainly I've viewed a lot of mobility scooters and wheelchairs going out that end of the car park down to the bottom of Spring Hill and across the Tesco's, so they can quite easily get in and out of there, so would be ideally suited.
I mean, it's a good design, and it's very well balanced, elevation on it, it's good.
So what we're looking at, Jim, really, is the schedule, the timing, and if you just let me know about that.
I got another point with Andrew Hitt this week, and our plan is we may get into planning this week. There's a good chance we could.
And you don't see anything contentious at County Hall?
I personally can't, nor can Andrew. No.
Good.
No, I mean, I'd like to think we're getting in Friday.
So when can we cut the ribbon?
We're just going to do it.
Stages in between.
We're in a hurry.
Save up your 20 fees.
Yeah.
Well, we do need the agreement with County Hall, and there's a meeting next Monday, and I'll see the plans tomorrow, and they'll see them.
Okay.
Because they haven't approved it yet,
Right,
and it's
okay.
still their car park.
I don't mention things like
So hold back until Monday.
That's just a mere bagatelle.
And then what's the procurement process?
Jim knows. Andrew Hitt will prepare the tender documentation,
Yes.
and we'll run the process.
Yeah.
That's
Andrew prepares it, we've got a specification to do it, takes some time. He prepares it, sends it out, then they come to BTC to be open. Now, at that point, I don't want anything to do with it, because I've taken it this far. I want to keep my nose clean, so I always suggest that Councillor Lucas was involved in
the
that.
recommendation. It'll cover the basis, Chair. don't you?
Yeah, sure.
Are we tendering simply based on drawings and price? Is that all there is? But is that all we're doing?
Well, not really, no.
We've done the tender process.
Well, everyone's going to tender off its own specification.
Yeah.
Really. And then it's up to the council what they accept, really.
Okay, so under that scenario, and there's nothing wrong with that. I've done
that's
plenty of
the only
procurement.
way.
Well, you can, but you only get what you asked for. So under that procurement, if a tenderer said you can have exactly that, and I'll put the solar panels on for free.
Yeah, they wouldn't do that.
Imagine if somebody could be persuaded to put on the solar panels.
Well, they're really cheap now.
Or for £1, then they wouldn't win.
We need to play it strictly by financial regulations, and that's set down.
But you can run a tender that says you get marks for the price, you get marks for sustainability, you get marks for various things, and you procure the lowest cost
Well,
compliant
programme
tender.
will be the biggest thing, because anybody that can't start fairly soon will
Agreed.
be outside,
Agreed.
won't they?
So it's not. It can be done just on price, and I'm not saying you shouldn't.
No, it won't be done on price because financial regulations specifically say the town council doesn't have to decide on price.
So
Best value we work on.
Yeah, best value.
Brilliant. So who's writing the tender spec?
The spec will be done by Andrew Hitt.
That's for the physical building you get,
Yeah.
but for all this stuff about time scale and sustainability,
Yeah.
And who does that?
We shall write that.
we shall write that. Excellent.
Yeah,
But
so
the
that can come.
For the read the recommendation, we can probably do also this conversation. But
Yeah.
you're free to change it, of course, but the drafted recommendation is resolve one to agree the detailed drawings as tabled and approve their submission for planning permission. And two, commission Andrew Hitt to prepare the documentation for the tender process for the work to be agreed by the Assets and Services Working Group.
We really need to see where we get the most sun for solar panels, because I hate solar panels.
No, you
Well,
don't
it's
need
basically
sun
south.
anymore.
That's about as sound as you can get. Jack.
Is it? I mean, is it?
You don't have a better
front
place.
or rear?
No, it's just
So
daylight now, so you don't need sun.
It's worth them right.
Yeah, the ideal place would be on the southern elevation.
Better.
Before I put it to the vote, Stephen.
Yeah, just quickly with regards to solar panels, I would disagree. I mean, you'll remember that I actually proposed having a striking modern building here, something completely outstanding that wouldn't have been out of
Wait,
place.
here or there? This one?
There, yeah. That was something that wouldn't have been out of place in, I don't know, Singapore.
Sure.
For this building, I think, they're going for it's a lovely sort of Victorian pavilion, and go with that. If you can have a Victorian building, have a Victorian building. If you can have a modern building, then go for it with the solar panels. If you were going to choose solar panels, for sure, get the tiles, get the integrated ones.
yeah, I was just
And then that will be a thing.
Yeah.
Then there's obviously a greater cost implication.
my view would be put that in the tender spec. Yeah, there are points available for the guy that specifies extra
Yes.
environmental friendliness.
Well, that's something we
And
can
we
talk
have
about
the situation here as well.
We'll vote now as per. Could you just repeat for clarity, David, the wording, and then we'll take the vote.
Basically, to agree the detailed drawings and the submission to the planning authority and to Commissioner Andrew Hitt. You've already approved it actually in a previous resolution to prepare the documentation and that will be used in the tender process that will be agreed by the Assets and Services Working Group.
Thank you. Would you like to move, Councillor Toogood?
That's marvellous, thank you. But solar panels, leave it
Second,
at
all those in favour, please show. That's unanimous.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Foley.
There's one other thing, Mr. Mayor. The service connections to any building are quite often a big problem in terms of timing and also unusual costs. So I would ask Jim if you can possibly do it to get some prices from the electricity, the
water,
and drainage, because those connections can be surprisingly long
Drag
and
on,
expensive. Yeah, and the tenderer all he'll do is just put a provisional sum against it, and we won't know where we're going.
Now, I have got a meeting Wednesday with Dares, give us a prize, connected and taken across on the car. It's going to rent, so I'll follow the S&P and the water.
Yeah.
I'll do it on that, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brian, for that.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, now on to Ventnor Haven. there have been a number of meetings between the parks and councils and the owners of the businesses down there about the problems of the haven as a result of the fact that Isle of Wight Council want rid of, as we know historically. And there has been a new intervention by a third party who has been in contact with me and has subsequently met with the clerk about another proposal for dealing with the seaweed, getting rid of it or whatever, or using it to benefit or getting a financial return from it. So, David.
Yes, well, both the meetings that we've had kind of summarised there, and Councillor Tudor has been at both of them, and is probably best equipped to answer any questions. But
he was a very interesting gentleman, no question at all about. I think in reality it won't work, because you're going to get stuff away.
Can you just explain for the benefit of members the idea behind it, Jim? Sorry.
The idea was, he's going to look at the seaweed, go down and get a bucket full and see what we've got down there. And then he's going to put a net, several nets on the base. And then hopefully the seaweed's going to go into the net, then they're going to put them up, hopefully the sand will drop through, and then cart them away. You know, it's just like, it's not going to work. If
there were no boats in there, it might.
It's not going to work. You wouldn't get a vehicle big enough down there to a crane to put the jig out to lift them and the weight of them. And you open a lorry stand by. Oh, it's a nice day today. We'll take the hire a crane and hire a lorry. Practically, it's not financial. It's not financially sensory. But also, he's going to go away, Sean was, or the general was, to see how much they would get per tonne for seaweed. But he was very clever man, but I don't think it will work practically. I really don't.
So he's going to, sorry, Colin, as I understand it, he's gone away now and he's going to do some further research.
Yes, he is.
And he's got some contacts at what university there is?
York.
At York University.
Yeah.
So that maybe he'll come back and decide that this is something that we should be talking about, or else come back and say, well, actually, we got this wrong. We don't see that there's a way out of it. So that's where we're leading it.
You're correct, but I don't think he's got it wrong. I think in a perfect situation, fine, but we got the Cascade to get huge lorries up. You've got to get a crane down to lift them. But you can't just ring up one more and say, can I have a crane? It won't work out, does it? No. And the lorries will cause a mess when they take it away, because they're obviously dripped. You're going to get a mess all up the High Street, Pier Street, Cascade. It's not in the right position, the harbour's not in the right position to it. Realistically, it's not. That's just my opinion.
Right, okay.
So I read the chap's paper with some interest. The numbers are that dry seaweed of that sort is worth about £150 a tonne dry. If you process it into a fertiliser, which is you just chuck it in buckets of water and leave it for a couple of months, and then you've got to filter it, that's worth about £1,000 a tonne. I agree entirely that the economics of it are dreadful. What I think is worth looking at is we have a public nuisance that we need to pay someone to take away, but you can do something with that and turn it into a public good. But the beneficiaries of this organic seaweed fertiliser could be Botanic Gardens. It could be Ventnor Enhancement Fund for our own fertiliser. It could be our own allotment users. It could be other parks and public sectors around the Isle of Wight. If we're on the hook for clearing the weed, if the public sector is on the hook for clearing the weed, let's let the public sector pay for it, and then let's get some benefit from it that helps to defray that cost. I think you can keep it local on the island. I think moving it across to the mainland, you need to make any sort of seaweed processing worthwhile doing. You need hundreds of thousands of tons, tens of thousands of tons to make it worthwhile. These Atlantic kelp, you don't need a bit of that. You get quite a lot of that. But you could do something local.
How are you going to cart it away? Where are you going to store it?
It's what we're saying.
I know a chap whose business it is to haul stuff out of the sea, process it into something of high value and sell it. And I think we could work up a cost model that is a public-private partnership where somebody we're on the hook for some of the costs, but we defray the costs with some benefit.
But just to be clear, we're not in a position here where we have to make any decision on anything. We're just dealing.
Right, that was good because I was at a meeting the other day about this very subject. About 15 years ago, someone had the same idea and took a whole load of seaweed to Vauxhall and threw it on a field. Loud were the lamentations of the people of Vauxhall because it was awful, because it was covered in pollution. It all had to be removed, couldn't go to the landfill, it was taken to the mainland and incinerated. But at this meeting there was a chap there who is an expert on this kind of thing, and he said, well actually what they did in medieval times is they mixed it up with chopped up bracken, and it just so happens that the National Trust in fact has a huge machine that you can see in operation on Ventnor Downs every autumn chopping up this bracken. So you can do this, you're absolutely right, but you need to research how you do it.
It's not straightforward. The other thing that can be done with it is anaerobic digestion, and we've got a really big AD plant on the island.
That's right, yeah.
But somebody needs to go and speak to them and say, will it fit with your bugs and your parameters and all those things? Or you know, we're always looking for things to do to generate money for the town council. We could cover an AD plant.
Well, when David comes back after he's done his research, some of these things might or may not be included.
Just to ask, is David Baldwin and York University, are they offering to test as far as their cost?
They are going, well, David is committed to finding out, first of all, what type of seaweed is actually there, because there are hundreds of types, and that's the first thing to establish for whatever comes next. And he's also going to find out whether any of the companies he's in touch with, and some of which, as Colin will know, having read the plan, are making meshes from seaweed for use by the NHS on an increasingly large scale. So they're worth looking at. Sean Strevens, for me, at the meeting, got it absolutely right. Does this have economic value or not? That was his question, and David's taken that on board, and he said, as the paper reports, that he will come back with an answer to that.
At what stage then we decide whether we take it forward or not?
We've a long way to go, but it's not urgent in the sense that deadlines are down the track. So if Ventnor Town Council does come to have any stake in it, it won't be before April 21. That would be the earliest.
Yeah, the council has already agreed to subsidise as wasn't the case even 3 months ago, but they've since decided to extend the contract to Jeff, to Sean rather, for the removal of the seaweed. So whereas time, we were really worried that summer this 2020 would be upon us, and the glorious smell that Dealing was referring to in Vauxhall would be permeating up from our harbour, but that's not going to be the case now. So, right.
We're talking about the seaweed having economic value. It doesn't have to pay for itself. It just has to contribute more than we're paying at the moment. So I mean, even if it doesn't make any commercial sense, but it reduces our 70,000-80,000 or whatever it is we're paying at the moment, that still makes sense.
It's strange, really. I was talking to an old lady who lived in St Catherine Street. She's no longer with us. But her husband and a few other people who had, that stretch of the coast there, they took all the seaweed for strawberry planting, and they had the best strawberries apparently in the whole Isle of Wight. That were absolutely delicious, and they were all grown on the strength of Ventnor Bay seaweed.
You have to dry it first. You have to dry it first.
Well, I don't know anything about that, but I'm just
not slimy one.
Yes. Because black pepper and seaweed and seaweed, black pepper and strawberries go as far as I know, you don't get black pepper out of the sea. Only
as Councillor Backhouse Brian said previously, you're talking about Orkney, and this is where
you do it
methane-free. Let's have methane-free sheep.
So no decision. In summary, no decision has been made about this yet. But we await David Baldwin's report back to the clerk, and then we'll see where we go from there. But for one, I mean, this all came about because I was talking to David on the bandstand at the D-Day commemoration when the ship was nearly trying to come in. And he was talking about it. I had no idea. Like, I just thought it was, it's something that he was interested in and talking about. And then all of a sudden, pardon my language, I found out that he's actually he knows what he's talking about, a genuine expert in these things. So that was the exciting bit for me about it, because we've talked about this for years and years and years in Ventnor, but no end in sight, really, Jason.
I mean, well, we can't suggest that our forefathers found lots of things to do with waste products. It can't be beyond the wit of us to do the same thing. Exactly. So at least look at it.
Okay, right, we'll move on. That's no decision, as I say, needs to be made. Housing needs survey.
You've seen the letter from Chris Ashman asking for assistance with getting residents to engage with the survey. And
Sorry, I've got
the question of whether we can offer anything towards that, whether a positive response or not.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons we were determined or trying to go ahead with the Victoria Street development was precisely because of that. And it's the people at County Hall who have put the kibosh on it at the end of the day.
This, to be clear, this is a survey of what people think.
Yeah, I understand.
If you've looked at the survey, it's entirely about the house people live in. How many bedrooms, who sleeps where, how many children on a bed, all that stuff. So it's not for us to respond to formally. There will be a consultation on the resultant strategy, of course. But for now, it's just a question of whether, I suppose all I'm doing is making you aware that anything you can do to encourage people in your areas to actually look at it, delivering would be welcome.
Well, my question was going to be about, what are the mechanics and the logistics of doing that? How do we physically, apart from knocking on people's doors or...
Okay, well, can I, after you, Chairman, can I suggest that this is certainly something, housing needs thing was a thing we've looked at in the last few years here at Town Council. We have put together a list of landlords in town, and as much as we've tried to engage with them, that has given us as much as we might as well not have the list of landlords in the town. However, that shouldn't leave us alone. I was encouraged by Councillor Cockett's idea about we do look at this, and we have now lost this social housing aspect to what we want to do with Ventnor Central. So I think it's still something that needs to stand onto Town Council's idea and how we go about it. There is, as days go by, technology changes. We should be looking at those spaces we have, and we should be looking at how we can encompass those for the people that we need. And I could just give you a little anecdote today. I mean, I've met an estate agent today who has no fault of his own, of course, apart from being an estate agent, but has found himself homeless. And can he find somewhere to rent because of for no reason of his own, he can't find somewhere to be. He's suddenly found it very difficult. I'm going, okay, I understand that. With other people that don't have the means, don't have the access. So, this is a thing that we have to keep open.
I wonder, speaking about that, for example, developments like the Pan Meadows development in Newport, there were, at the time when the development was completed, a number of empty houses because they weren't being sold. And I wonder, of all the developments on the island done by the private sector, how many properties are actually still lying empty, and whether there's an opportunity there for the council to do something about that. in terms of making them available to the rented sector. Right.
I think it's a bit of a planning issue really, because on the planning committee we quite often get people who've got large houses wanting to split them up for holiday lets, and I've got personal experience of people who are trying to find a permanent let, and they can't because all the places are let for holidays, and which you add all the holiday periods up across the year, they get far more than they would on a regular let. And yet the planners seem to be quite happy to change of use, to have the house split up into holiday units, and that's why you've got this problem. And they say that they can't stop, change of use.
Steve?
Yeah, when I first saw the survey advertised, I was quite excited and I was ready to write a couple of thousand words, in a personal capacity, of course. In actual fact, I mean, the survey pretty much says how many bedrooms have you got now, how many do you think you're going to need in 10 years' time, 20 years' time, which was rather disappointing. Yeah, there's a huge housing problem in Ventnor. I just had a quick look then. There's assuming the Rightmove logs 99% of the available properties, a few others come up. There's 5 available now, so that's better. It's up from 2 or 3 a week ago. We have a terrible problem here. To the point where people are putting up adverts in the supermarket offering cash rewards if somebody can find a room for them to live in. It would be of interest, in my opinion, if this council could make a response, but a much fuller response, and much broader than what is offered here. I'm guessing that's an amendment to this recommendation too far, but if it isn't, then that would be my request.
Anybody else?
Yeah, there's a company in Newport actually provides housing needs for whole and wide. He's got at his fingertips. He does it for planning purposes. It's already done. I find it strange, really.
So just explain that from my thick head.
Well, no, it's okay. No, there's a company in Newport. Actually, his business is to find out what the housing needs in the whole Isle of Wight, and it's done for planning reasons. And that's his business. Is at his fingertips.
Yeah, but that's
The Isle of Wight Council commissioned a housing strategy 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And the reason I think they're going back over this ground is partly because of the amount of feedback they've had about people not wanting as many houses built, led by the Islands MP, of course. And so they're revisiting it. But this particular survey is only requesting information about your house. There's not a comment on the strategy at this stage.
Oh, I see.
What we're being told is when they've got all the stuff together, when they've analysed it, they will publish something for consultation, including the Town and Parish Council.
I think the title in that case is a bit of a misnomer, then, because you look at it, if the housing needs, you think, well, what are we going to need in the future? That's not what we've got at the present. Anyway, maybe that was just the way I read it.
It's open for 6 weeks, so if you want to take time to look at the survey and put it on the agenda of next month's meeting, there's still time to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought it was encouraging to suggest that there is an estate agent out there today who is homeless.
How old is this estate agent?
Because he can't get a rental facility within this area.
I know who you're talking about. He can't rent it to himself or one of his clients. Yeah. Maybe that's who it is.
But it is, I think, in a bigger picture, as this town council goes on, it is a situation we've laid out.
Do we want to bring that back in February? Are we going to be quite tight?
I'd like to,
6 weeks from September.
Yeah, okay. Stephen.
Besides, perhaps I'm being a bit naive. If this is a survey that's going out to householders and say how many rooms you need, etc., the people that most dire need, people who haven't actually got a registered address, aren't even going to get to fill it in.
That's right. But that's. Yeah.
You've hit it, Councillor.
The nonsense, really, isn't it?
We certainly today when we do sport sessions and all that.
Yeah,
Sure.
I think that will be highlighted if you have a good think about it in the meantime. Okay, we'll bring that back to February. Thank you. Clerk's report.
Brief, Chair, because we had a break, of course, of quite a long time.
Did you?
Well, some of us carry on working a bit from time to time, as you will know.
From the hospital now.
For the guidance, you'll be pleased that the police have now finished with their new lease. They've been here 5 years in February, and they've renewed for another 5 years, which brings in something just about 55 grand over the period in rent. So they're here till 2025. Youth Works, this is to let you know that Greg Barnes, who's been a professional youth worker here for 3 years, has now been overrun with all kinds of other commitments, including starting a degree course. And he doesn't feel he can do justice to his present role with us. He's willing to do something else from time to time with us. He said he really enjoyed the time and he's sorry to go. And Tony McCarthy, as you'd expect, is making arrangements for his replacement. We're not proposing a full recruitment process because we're talking about 2 hours a week. This is the extent of his commitment. The library steering group met on Tuesday. Jason and I go. The head of the library service couldn't come to this time, so there was some items he couldn't deal with. But we have now formally passed on the information about the Town Council's decision in respect of Ventnor Central Upper Ventnor Community Association. Alison and Jason attended that. The fire order. Jim, do you want to?
Not to speak.
Not for me.
You carry on, Mr. B.
Okay.
Yeah.
As members know, we had a small fire here some weeks ago with a light in our office catching fire, or at least smoking, enough to set alarms off. The fire service came very quickly. The only damage they did was to the door of the sergeant's office, which they had kicked in order to be able to check because there was nobody in the police rooms at the time. Anyway, what this is about is the fire service, in the form of Terry Hopkins, asked to come and conduct a fire audit so that the service was better prepared for any future occurrences there may be. And he came and met with Jim Toogood for a couple of hours.
Yeah, it was very worthwhile.
Had a complete tour of the building and checked our final risk assessment from 2015 when that was last done, and made a range of really useful suggestions for improvements and has provided a written report on that, which we're content with, Jim.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good report. I've got to check all that out and add to it and bits and pieces, but I've got a meeting with Nick next week, and I think Nick's the best one to take it over. There's a lot of things can be checked yearly, little things, and the things what can be done. No, there's great cost at all, really, but they are essential to be done. But Nick and me are working on it. So
Keeping us all safe.
yeah, he's very pleased. He was a really nice guy, very practical, very pleased with what he found. Just a few minor things he's got to do. But I've got to meet with Nick next Thursday, I think it is, to start things rolling on it. And you can take it over.
Good.
Yeah, he's the best one to do that.
Any questions for the clerk on his report?
That will be a first, Chair.
Well, okay, the official meeting has been